All right, round three, we're going to be comparing the UFC to other promotions in the world, the biggest promotions, a Bellator, a One Championship, a Ryzen. Brick, what are your thoughts?
So we actually are very excited to announce elsewhere that we have an interview tomorrow with the number one pound for pound fighter under 25 years old. His name is AJ McKee. We interviewed his father 2 weeks ago, I believe. Such a fun interview. We have that tomorrow afternoon. But the number one pound for pound fighter is not out of the UFC. That's incredible. First of all, you have a guy like AJ McKee who holds records as what is he, 24 years old, 23, yes. 24? Yes. He holds a record in Bellator for the longest standing active win streak in the entire promotion. The guy is 16-0, 16 straight wins in Bellator.
All in Bellator. He started in Bellator.
It's so unbelievably impressive. Here's my thing with Bellator. It is so much more fair, in my opinion, than the UFC. In the UFC, you have to rely so much on your ability to win a crowd over. You have to rely on your dancing if you're Israel Adesanya, your trash talk if you're Conor McGregor, your overall persona if you are a UFC fighter. If you're a Bellator fighter, you don't have to say a word. All you have to do is win fights. And then you get to bigger fight cards, you get to championships, you get to hold belts, and then you make so much more money. So it's so much more fair, in my opinion, in Bellator. But the UFC just has something about it that the Bellator promotion does not.
The UFC is the money-making business. It is a business. Bellator is a fighting league. UFC, you make your money. In the UFC, if you, like you said, if you can talk, if you can dance, if you can be funny off of the camera, if you have a lot of Instagram followers, you are going to get the bigger fights. You're going to get the bigger fight cards. You're going to get the bigger purse. However, in Bellator, you obviously get more of the best fighters get to the next shot. The fun thing about the UFC, and the reason why I typically side with the UFC and watch more of the UFC and follow it closer, is you have so many more fun storylines when there's nothing set in stone. You can say after Nate Diaz wins a big fight over Anthony Pettis, it's not, hey, I'm going to fight I want to fight, the number 3 ranked guy or whatever. It's, hey, Jorge Masvidal had a good last fight and broke Ben Askren's undefeated record, as much as I still lose sleep over it. It's so fun to ask the question, who's next? And to build that storyline, to cut those promos, to find two guys that don't like each other. Because at this point, it's AJ talking about Pitbull, who are on different sides of the spectrum. And as much as I believe that both of those two are going to end up in the Bellator Championship, all that is talk for now until it actually happens. Whereas the UFC can go, this guy is the best guy, this guy is the best guy. I don't care what you're ranked. Let's go and put these guys together. And that's why I think the UFC has kind of been able to develop and create such a money-making business and become so popular, is because they create storylines while Bellator has fairness in play.
And although you have AJ McKee and Pitbull talking, and I'm with you. I would put money down that it's going to be those two at the end of the tournament in Bellator. But that's the thing, you never know. Knock on wood, I don't want anything to happen to either of these fighters, but injuries can play a role in massive roles in the Bellator tournament. But you have fighters and you have fights that are promoted and put on in the UFC where it's like, this person doesn't like this person. Forget even what weight class they're in. Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor, they don't like each other. Let's have them fight. Yeah. One of them's a welterweight and the other one was fighting at featherweight. Who cares? That's how the UFC has been so successful, and they have monopolized the game, in my eyes, by capturing so much larger of a fan base just by being able to, I guess, manipulate the system.
Well, they put money on the guys that are going to make them money. They put money into Conor McGregor. They put money into Nate Diaz. Bellator doesn't put money. They put money into the promotion. They put money into the tournament, but that doesn't build the same storyline as two people who don't like each other. Two guys who, first of all, want to fight, and two guys that are going to put on a great show. And that's why the UFC is, unfortunately, because I'd love to see other fight promotions do as well, but that's why I think that the UFC is so much farther ahead than any other promotion.
With that being said, though, Bellator is on a rise. Yes. That we have probably never seen before, with AJ McKee being the number one pound for pound fighter under 25 years old, and he's never fought in the UFC. He's never fought anywhere but Bellator. These Bellator guys are making a stand, and they are making noise.
The question is, and something that I'm actually going to ask AJ is is Bellator for life? Are you always going to be a Bellator guy? Or do you wish that you were in the UFC where you could talk a little more trash to get the guy that you want, to get that money fight? And if that's the case, then maybe Bellator does need to maybe switch up the way that they think about these things. But it's all up in the air, and that's going to be a super interesting, fun interview to have.
We'll find out tomorrow. Check it out.